Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world, around the country, around the state, around the city. Welcome to another episode of the Thought-provoking Sisters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Theresa J, Canada. And of course, today we have a special guest, because all my guests are special. But we have a special guest that's going to talk about his memoir, Dr. Craig Yorke. Welcome, Dr. Yorke.
Thanks so much for having me, Professor Canada.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to just give a little background about Dr. Yorke because it's interesting. He fits the bill for the podcast because when the focus of the podcast is to talk about people in the North and Midwest, and he covers both categories, and that's fantastic. Okay. Also, let me just give a little bit about his background. Dr. Yorke was born in Roxbury, Massachusetts. For those of you who don't know where that is, it's in the Boston area. He received a BA from Harvard College in 1970 and his MD from Harvard Medical School in 1974. His parental directive insisted he avenge centuries of bigotry with a life of infinite success. I love that. I just love that. After a neurosurgical residency at the University of California at San Francisco, he and his wife, Mary, found their way to an unlikely destination. Of course, it's unlikely for me anyway. He practiced in Topeka, Kansas for 25 years, wrestling with his history and the armored identity it had imposed. He and Mary raised two admirable sons, Zach, who lives in Brooklyn, and I heard he's not far from where I live, and Chris, who calls Seattle his home. Dr. Yorke brews coffee for two each morning in the colonial home they've occupied for 33 years. He's a credible violinist, having played, what's the name of that concerto?
It's the Bruch G minor.
Okay, the Bruch C minor concerto with the Boston Pops, nonetheless, at 17 years old. Unbelievable. And hits tennis balls with passion. Steep is his first book. Welcome again, Dr. Yorke.
Many thanks.
Okay. All right. We're going to get started. Let me just tell the total title of the book. It's Steep, a Black Neurosurgeon's Journey. So you all know now he's a neurosurgeon. If you didn't know that before, now you know. Okay. So we're going to get started. And one of the first questions I want to ask, what's the impetus for you writing the book along with the chosen title, Steep?
Well, the book began as a letter to our two sons. I wanted to let them know who their dad was. And I wanted to convey to them the kinds of things that don't get said at family reunions and kind of get pushed aside at Thanksgiving dinners. So I was writing along, kind of chronological sort of thing. And then Mary and I were in a long line in Washington, D.C. to get into the Black Smithsonian, the National Museum.
Right.
And we're inching along, and I come to see some letters that are etched above the entrance. And it turns out to be a quote from James Baldwin. And it says, basically, the power of history is that it lives within us, controls us unconsciously, emphasis unconsciously. So I'm shuffling forward and I'm thinking to myself, there's a lot of people in this line, but the only guy Baldwin is talking to is me. He is literally telling me that I need to get a little more woke to my past. So that I started to rearrange the chronology and look harder at what I really had wanted to forget. Then I thought about some lines from a favorite poem of mine.
And what's that?
It's called Four Quartets. It's the last poem that T.S. Eliot ever wrote, and he thought it was his best. He was born in St. Louis, by the way, born and raised in St. Louis. He wrote it while he was an air raid warden in London in the Blitz, 1940. And, the poem is about the usual subjects, life, death, pain, God, all that. But in there, he has these lines, and I'm sorry that I wasn't able to close the book with these lines, but it's called, "This is the use of memory for liberation, not less of love, but the expanding of love beyond desire." And so liberation from the future as well as the past.
Okay.
So when I substitute craving for the word desire, wanting things to come out a certain way, hating things, craving things, that kind of said, gee, I need to change the way I'm writing a little bit. So this is becoming a very long letter to our kids. So ultimately, I get this manuscript. I've got 55,000 words, and I'm thinking, how do I get this into the world? So I'm at a local bookstore. I'm staring at the Black Study shelf, and I see these bulletproof books. I mean, they are incredibly necessary, indispensable, brilliant.
Right.
But they are, when you put on your doctor's hat, they are much more diagnostic than therapeutic.
Yeah. Yes.
And they don't have any room for the experience of one little guy from Topeka, Kansas. So I
Interesting.
thought to myself, I'm going to really make an effort to get this manuscript out into the world and maybe stretch this shelf an inch or so and grow the audience for Black stories that are seldom told.
Exactly.
So that's the origin story of the book.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful point. Wonderful point. And I understand. I understand because of as being an author myself and how I writing my book. I understand exactly what you're saying. It took me years to actually decide to. I started, and then it took me years to actually say, okay, I need to do something with this information. Years. And I commend you for taking your steps probably sooner than I did. But I understand that when you want to get the information out there and share, it sometimes takes it's very laborious, so it takes time. Okay. But you have to be comfortable. And so you were comfortable and you had the stimulus that made you say, okay, this is the time. This is what I need to do. Am I correct?
I'm not getting younger. The time had come.
That means I hear you. I hear you, Dr. York. I hear you. Absolutely. Absolutely. But it came at the right time.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's true.
came at the right
That's
time.
true.
Well, we need this. We need to hear this. People need to hear about this and your experience because they may think that you don't even exist. People like you don't even exist. There are people I know who didn't think I existed.
Yeah.
So you can imagine. All right. And this is why I want to get the word out, let people hear about things and talk about people like, oh, okay, what? Oh, really? Oh, okay. So it's not like not like, what's the term I want to say? Anomaly.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Well,
Anomaly.
yeah, I will admit to being an outlier for sure. And let me just throw in one other point about the book, Steep. It's available on Amazon and it's available through Ingram Spark, through all of the brick and mortar stores in the nation. But the word steep is an adjective and it's also a verb.
Okay.
Um, Most everybody understands the adjective. It's a very well known story. Horatio Alger. You start in a gritty neighborhood and you get to Harvard and blah, blah, blah. What was more interesting to me was the verb. Once you've climbed the first mountain,
Right.
uh, you're invited to steep your identity, to steep yourself. What happens to a pot of tea? It matures, it clarifies. And for me, that was the more important usage because that's what happened. That's what I was aiming for after I left the OR at about 55.
Oh,
To
really?
steep my identity, to shed a layer or two of armor,
Okay.
and to think about the identity that the world had imposed on me, and ask whether that was immutable, whether that was unchangeable.
Great. Great explanation. Okay. So now, taking what you just shared, let's go back. I want to talk about and discuss your early childhood
Sure.
experience. Okay. Discuss what it was like being born and reared in Boston area, and the educational and social experiences that you describe in the book. Can you share that with the audience? Specifically, I know about the Latin school. I have known about the Boston Latin school, but talk about those types of experience which you went through educationally from, your experiences, the social as well as educational experiences that you went through from
Mm,
birth to
yeah.
when you arrived at Harvard.
Well, um, I will start by talking about my parents who were at war for their whole lives. They were at war with the humiliation of their experience.
Mhm.
And they did not expect to have a child. They were getting ready to adopt when I showed up in 1948 with club foot and asthma and all that sort of thing. They had, of course, been wounded, and I was their only child.
Okay.
Uh, they had no money for a second child. They had no fertile time for another child. So they chose to forge me into their weapon.
Mhm.
I was their weapon against their experience. And I guess the first fork in the road came when I was 6. Um, the school was not good. There were a lot of fights. I wasn't learning to read very well. And my parents made a radical decision to leave the Black community in Roxbury and move 20 miles to the south and west to a blue collar, GI Bill, white ethnic suburb.
Wow.
And my mom's family was alarmed enough that her oldest brother gave my dad a revolver because
They were
they're
concerned.
known we were headed into harm's way. What happened in Stoughton, which is the name of the town, was that I did learn phonics. I got into a lot of fights with kids, and I don't remember what the basis for it was. I do remember that my parents were furious if I lost these fights, but they were terrified if I won. Or,
Really?
oh yeah, because it's high stakes. You
Yes.
know.
Yes.
Anyway, the next fork in the road came when I was 11. My parents are deferring their gratification over generations now. They moved back into Boston to enroll me in this insanely competitive public middle school and high school. And although I had many layers of armor, many credentials, the most competitive year of my life was the 7th grade at the
Why is
Boston Art
that?
School. At that time, there was no admission examination. It
Okay.
was a matter of being recommended by your 6th grade teacher,
Okay.
and
Interesting.
500 boys in sport coats and neckties show up the first day of school, and a number are from families fleeing Eastern Europe. A number are survivors of the potato famine.
Yeah.
A number are Italian, a few Chinese, a very few black kids.
Mhm.
And the headmaster gets up and says, "Welcome. Your 6th grade teachers think you're hot stuff. At the end of the 7th grade, we're going to throw half of you guys out.
Just like that.
Yep. You're all going to go back to your neighborhood schools." So these are not ordinary 7th graders. Every family is desperate.
Yes.
Every family knows that this is the ticket.
Yes.
So that year was just unbelievable. I began the 7th grade living in a bunker, basically, and didn't exit the bunker till the 12th grade. And it was a tiny apartment. Left the apartment each morning with my briefcase and imagine an 11-year-old kid.
No.
on the subway with the briefcase, you know?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine.
So, I mean, and you come home and you practice the violin, the fiddle all afternoon, have dinner, and study until you go to bed.
So the back to the routine again, right?
That was my life for 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I talk about Steep as being a book that's about price and value, part of the price of success was not having a childhood or an adolescence.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that. Let me pause you for a second. Uh, I'll share with the audience, you and I have something in common. We both are violinists, okay, which is rare. And your experience, this is why I was because I read, was reading the book, and I said, unbelievable. Okay, I just thought it just something like me did this. But basically, that was a turning point for my life as well when I ended fourth. Mine was earlier, fourth grade. Okay. So you can imagine, not that you're 11, 8, 7, 8 years, and not knowing what you were going to come from. Okay. No idea.
Mm,
And the fact is to have a violin, I was playing, my parents had my sister, older sister and I in piano lessons. So I was playing the recitals at 7, 6 and 7 years old for the piano.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
But the violin was not a chosen, it was what was given to me. I didn't ask for the violin. Okay, I didn't ask, but we had to have an instrument, and then because of the class that I was in, I don't know if it makes a difference for you how you can explain to the audience, but for me, because of the class that I was enrolled in, my only choice was an orchestral music instrument, not the band. There were other
Mhm,
classes where they had to select an instrument in the band, but
mhm,
for the class that I was enrolled in, it had to be for the orchestra. So I really wanted to play the cello,
Oh.
and they said, "No, you're too small for the cello." Okay, I said, "What about the viola?"
Mm.
"No, your arm's too short for the viola." I said, "What's left?" I said, "The violin." I said, "Okay." So I understand, but I'll tell you something. To, I I had private lessons in piano and only public school lessons in violin,
Mhm.
and I performed the violin better than I performed in the piano.
Cool.
Okay, that's just I'm just saying off the top, but this is interesting. So I want you to describe to me what do you feel the violin itself allowed you to do academically as opposed to just playing the violin.
Well, it was all of a piece. It was all about discipline. It was all about deferral of gratification. Frankly, I wanted nothing to do with the violin. I was 6 years old and I wanted nothing to do with it. And my opinion was completely irrelevant. Um, it was a project. It was part of my parents' effort to armor me against a hostile, uh, disdainful world.
Exactly.
And I did what I was told. I pursued the larger project of being a credit to the race,
Mhm, mhm.
and I got pretty good, you know. But I will say that once I got to college, I put the violin in the case. It was just too much surrogacy,
Yes,
too much
yes.
fusion, and I didn't take it out until I left the OR when I was about 55.
Okay.
And my wife, Mary, one morning over coffee, I had just left the OR,
Right.
and I'm feeling good. And she said, if you're not going to play that violin, why don't you sell it? And that was like a lightning bolt. I thought, wait a minute, maybe this thing is not, you know, the the instrument of torture that I thought it was. And so now every day I play. I mean,
Good.
it's become a part of my identity. It's a vehicle for meditating. I'm the oldest member of the local orchestra, which is actually quite good. And the violin is really the closest thing I've got to a family heirloom. I mean, it is a symbol of parental love,
Yeah. Gotcha.
straight up. you know.
Okay. So you think that there's the correlation, your parents wanted you to not just exist, but to thrive,
And to thrive endlessly.
not just momentarily.
Yeah. Well, no, just, there was nothing that I could do that was enough,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
and because their hunger for validation
Yeah.
was bottomless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So they put it all on you.
Bingo.
How was that pressure? How did you survive that pressure?
Well, I didn't know anything else to do. I was an only child, closeted, and to get parental approval, you know, this is what it took. I
That's right.
remember very well. Um, I think I came home with a 1580 in the SATs, and my parents said, "Well, you know, what about McGaffigan? What about D. Simone? We hear that they got 1600. You know, what? You can do
But it
better.
wasn't enough. It just
Yeah,
wasn't enough.
you're smarter than those guys. You've got to be." And we're talking about a fast crowd. I mean, I was not the I did well at the
Yeah.
Latin school,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the people who ranked above me, I mean, one was shortlisted for a Nobel
Yeah.
Prize.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another
I know the
guy,
history of the Latin school. Yeah.
yeah, ran the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So, I mean, their expectations were crazy. But we lived together.
Yeah.
We very much lived together,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
I internalized them.
Yeah. But don't you think that was a good thing?
Well, if you change one thing, you change everything. People have asked me, "Aren't you angry at your parents?" And the answer is no, because I'm trying to expand love beyond craving and
Yeah.
desire.
Good point.
And like it says on Thurgood Marshall's tombstone, he did the best he could with what he had.
That's right.
And as I look around, many folks have no parents at all.
That's right.
Many folks have parents that drink too much Hennessy or, whatever they're doing. So my parents were warriors.
Right.
And if you change one thing, you change everything. So
Exactly. Exactly.
I have a
But
lot of
they
love for them.
they were on a mission though.
You're right about that.
They were on a mission. That's the see, let's look at the positive. What's the alternative for them? What there was no other alternative.
Well, as a matter of fact, the alternative was present every day. When I went to my piano lessons in Roxbury when I was 12 or 13, um, my dad would drive me and we would get to a really tough intersection. And, antisocial stuff is happening. Uh, Decadence, pain,
Yeah.
addiction is happening.
Yeah.
And he would literally say, this is your life
Yep.
going forward if you do not do what we tell you to do.
You would
So,
see it right in front of you.
absolutely,
Okay.
it was a clear and present danger, so to speak.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Well, I'm not going to keep you too much longer,
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah,
York. But let me just say to the audience, the book is available in hardcover, paperback, and as an ebook. Am I correct?
that is right.
Okay.
It's available on Amazon and in brick and mortar stores across the country.
Okay. Look for it's called Steep: A Black Neurosurgeon's Journey with Dr. Craig York. So thank you so much, Dr. York, for your presence and just sharing this story. And I hope I get my autographed copy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I'll guess I have to send one to you for my book as well. So
Sounds
that
great.
we can do that. We'll share. We'll share. And I'm looking forward to maybe I'll come to Topeka one day and I'll say, hey, I'm in town.
We got a good coffee shop, a couple of good restaurants.
Okay, that might work. That and on my way through to the West Coast, I take a drive to the West Coast. Whenever that's one of my goals to take a drive to the West Coast instead of
Very
taking
good.
plane to
Very
the
good.
West Coast. So I used to live in Ohio, so I know a little bit about the Midwest. And I have friends in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin, of course, Illinois. My family members in Illinois. I have a friend who moved to Nebraska years ago. So there are a couple of people out there. Okay. So maybe I may just take that trip. Okay.
Welcome in advance.
Thank you.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you. So let me just say goodbye to my audience. Audience, thank you so much, Dr. Yorke, for being here. And I want to thank the audience for being here again for another episode of Silk Stockings Sisters podcast. And we'll see you next time. Have a good day, everybody. Bye now.